Hey everyone, this is James with WSTrades.com. I want to provide an update here on ticker NNDM or Nano Dimension. So they had a big move lower today. I'm going to go into the daily time frame here. They've actually had two big moves lower. So they came up here above the $3 level and had a massive sell-off here, and you can see they closed below a key support level technically on the daily time frame, and that was right around this 280 mark, maybe 277. That was previous support that they had been able to hold, and then with today's candle, they just blew through that, and this candle had some pretty decent volume here. So with it closing below that level right there on the daily, I could definitely see this thing coming down and testing about 265, which is just a few more pennies away from where it's trading right now. So I'd kind of look there technically to see if buyers will step in at that point, and maybe it can bounce and find a bottom. And then if not, if it closes below that 265, I would look for it to come down here and maybe test around this 253 mark. So those are some levels I'm looking at to the downside since it's had this big move lower. Now there's been a lot of turmoil at Nano Dimension with the board. So somebody that holds a large percentage of shares in Nano Dimension, Murchison, this group believes all of the board members need to be thrown off. They need new board members. They say the board is just kind of destroying, shareholder value, which I kind of get their point, to be honest, because if you look at the weekly time frame here, all they do is pretty much lose money. They've had one quarter where they were able to come up with positive earnings per share, but every other quarter you see on the chart here, they're just consistently losing money. So I kind of get the point about, shareholder value being destroyed. So I kind of get Murchison's point. But the last two quarters here, you can see the weekly time frame. That's where they had their positive 9 cents a share gain. And this loss was much smaller here, the most recent quarter. If you look at that 4 cent right there, and you go to the year before, 2022, same quarter, they lost 15 cents a share. So that was an improvement. And then, this first quarter right here, also definitely an improvement. So the last 2 quarters have been a big improvement over what we've seen the previous years for earnings. So they're starting to turn in the right direction, although overall, they are still losing money over the last 12 months. Let's go into Yahoo Finance and just kind of take a look at some of the financials here. Let's take a look at the statistics tab, and you'll kind of see a lot of these statistics are based around the last 12 months, and you can see they're still struggling overall, even though the last 2 quarters have been better. Let's look at the last 12 months and see what's going on. And you can see operating margin the last 12 months, negative 246%. Profit margin, negative 273%. You can see return on assets the last 12 months is negative 6%. Return on equity, negative 6.7%. EBITDA, negative 123 million. And there's the diluted EPS still in the red over the last 12 months. They lost 57 cents a share if you look at diluted EPS. Now, if you look at their current ratio, it's huge. They've got a lot of cash on hand, so 33.88, they are nowhere near going bankrupt or anything like that. They've got a really good current ratio. And if you look at the book value as well, they do have positive stockholder equity. So the book value per share based on the most recent quarter is still over the $5 mark. But if you look at cash flow here, they've definitely got some problems. This operating cash flow is negative 104 million over the last 12 months, and then levered free cash flow is negative 73.68 million the last 12 months. Let's go into the financial statements here and take a closer look. So on the income statement, if you look at year over year, revenue has been growing. Let's look at earnings or net income common stockholders. They've been losing more and more money each year from 2019 up to 2022. If you look at these numbers, 2019 they lost 8.3 million, 2020 they lost 48 million, 2021 they lost 200 million, 2022 they lost 227 million. So I kind of understand what Murchison is saying there because the losses are getting bigger year over year now. And if you look at let's look at the quarterly just to kind of see what's going on with earnings. This is a little bit more recent data here. So you can see the one quarter here where they were able to swing the profit, but all of the other quarters, you can see they are losing money in the negative for earnings per share. But again, this latest one was a much smaller number. You see these big numbers over here, losing 39.7 million, losing 66.9 million, losing 87.6 million. So those are really big numbers. Then they swing to finally a profit, and then they go back into the negative, but the number is really small. Let's look at the cash flow statement, because I was kind of talking about some of the cash flow issues there. If you look on the annual, operating cash flow is growing in a negative number here. If you look at the annual, same thing for free cash flow. Well, free cash flow is a little bit different here because you got a big number of capex in here, which gives that a really big number. But if you look at 2019, they lost 13.2 million, or free cash flow was negative 13.2 million, and then that grows to negative 101 million in 2022. But let's look at the quarterly for some more recent data, and you can see operating cash flow is increasing. So if you look at June 30th, 2022, that quarter, 21 million in the negative, 22, 26, 27, 28 million in the negative. So operating cash flow, their cash flow from operations is heading in the wrong direction. Free cash flow is a very similar picture there, except for this quarter right here, the first quarter of 2023. That's where they had that big capex number in there. So that's kind of inflated. But, if you remove that or you don't look at that, you can kind of see the trend is upward, and free cash flow as well. So they are burning cash, and then we can take a look at the balance sheet and we can see that big difference in total assets versus liabilities. So you can see 2019 they had 22.8 million in assets, and at the end of 2022 1.2 billion. Let's look at the quarterly, and it's kind of going down, the assets. If you look at it here, June 30th, 2022, they had 1.3 billion in assets, 1.2, 1.2, 1.2, 1.1. So the assets on the quarterly is kind of going in the wrong direction. And you can see the same with the common stock equity. It's just kind of going lower quarter after quarter. But that kind of makes sense because they're bleeding cash, right? They're still, bleeding cash from operations, and their free cash flow is negative every single quarter, if we look at the cash flow statement. So, it'll be interesting to see, what happens with the board and if changes are made there. I know Nano Dimension also hired this independent firm, ISS, to kind of assess, what is going on with the current Nano Dimension board and Murchison, and, their calls to overthrow all the board members. And I believe in one of these stories here, they did say that they do agree that some change is needed. It says, though we supported the dissident at the March EGM and continue to believe that some degree of board change is needed, we are hesitant to support additional change prior to the resolution of the lawsuit. So it sounds like ISS does continue to support some need for change for the board for Nano Dimension. So I'll continue to keep you updated here on ticker NNDM or Nano Dimension. Please like this video. Please also subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Hit that notification bell. Appreciate you for taking the time to watch this. Talk to you soon.